We just got it. It's a machine unboxing. So that's exactly what we're going to do here today. We've got the new ACUS M2, and I'm just super excited to unbox this and share this with you guys. I'll go over what's inside the package, some of the accessories I've got, and compare it alongside with some of the machines that I've used in the past. So let's just go ahead and start with unboxing. This just shipped over from Germany, and the cost for this one, we're at 1,100 euros, which translates to roughly, I think like 1,200 or 1,280 US dollars. I'll have the exact numbers a little bit later. But there's several things that really drew me to this machine. We'll go over all those details later. But if we were to kind of inspect this box, cool. All right. So we've got the guide. We've got a disposable grip. We've got a USB-C battery charger. And we've got this nice little case. A couple little stickers, quick start guides. Okay. Yeah, we are. All right, so here's the machine. A couple cool things about this one. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. We got like two different grip sizes on here. One is a standard, one is a grip plus. And I knew they had a grip plus heavy, but I didn't buy it. I really wish I did, but we'll kind of wait a little bit more on that one. And just to kind of show you guys a little bit what's inside the packaging. Two grip sizes, two separate batteries. This is the extended version. So there's an extended and a standard. The difference between the two is with these extended batteries, we got about 9.5 hours of battery. The short ones, the standard version, is about 4 to 6 hours of battery. In addition to that, you've got these adjustable or interchangeable cams, and I'll go into that because that's what I'm really excited about. And that's the extra accessory that I bought over here. You got this tool that changes the cams. You got some O-rings, and I'm not too familiar with all the parts, so this is just, it's not a review, it's just more so an unboxing of everything. Looks like a little bit of silicone grease. Yeah, it's a nice compact package that we can take everything to go. I mean, where do we even start? The form factor. What I really loved about this is just kind of how clean the aesthetic is, and this reminds me a lot, we'll dive more into that, of the Cheyenne Solnova Unlimited. I just like how sleek everything looks. It's not like a lot of other machines that have these protrusions with buttons and, you know, these really funky displays that you got to kind of wrap it up in a certain way. I always like things that are well designed, well thought out. On top of here, I don't have a battery yet, but this is the screen. And it's not a touch screen, but it's a 4-way directional click. So I'll get into a little bit more of that later. One of the things that I heard about this, and I've seen the ACUS M1, I believe it was like a video that Ben Ochoa put out. And I kind of kept my eye on it. I let it go for a little bit because I was still using the Cheyenne Solnova Unlimited. I was using the ink machine Dragonfly. And I didn't think I was ready to kind of switch over to anything. When I saw the video for the ACUS M2, it really caught my attention for a couple reasons. Number one, the whole casing comes out. So you can actually clean, if I got this right, the entire covering. So all these separate parts come out. You can wipe them down, clean them really well, and then what you're left is just the motor, the computer components, and the exposed cam and the screen. Inside is where you would put your battery. Pros and cons, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but let's see if we can kind of get this started. Before I even do that, let's talk a little bit about the stroke and the cams, because that I think was one of the most interesting parts about it. I'll put up a little image out on the screen, and on the screen, ACUS put out stroke comparison overviews. And there's 3 different types of cams. You have a regular stainless steel cam, then you have a heavy stainless steel cam, and then you also have this brass stainless steel cam. all these different weights, I believe it just delivers a little bit more of a punch outside of the motor itself. But mixing the different weights of the cams with the stroke gives you a different application for each thing that you're doing. So just based on the chart, you know, if you wanted to go from 0 to 10 on how soft, you know, if you wanted to have it all around or more traditional, something that's a little bit more stronger, perhaps punchier, everyone has different words for it, you would be able to choose which cam you wanted to use. Included in the box, they've got 3 different cams. They have the standard 3.7, that's a small one here. It looks like the heavy 4.1 is on the machine already, and then you have this brass super heavy 4.5. I was messaging with Ben Ochoa, and he just gave me the advice. What he uses is a super heavy 3.7, so I went ahead and purchased that one as well. And that just gives you a range of, you know, looking at this chart, between a 4.5 to 8.5. So you can do black and gray, you can do color work, you can do the bold line work. If you wanted to push it, you know, for some black work, sure. But at this setting, this setup, I feel like this is pretty good for all the stuff that I like to do. I do prefer a stronger hitting machine with a shorter stroke. That just allows me to work efficiently at the hand speed that I work at. I'm not going to say that it's the best one. It all depends on your application and your personal preference. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and change this out to the cam of preference, which is this brass 3.7. Without reading the instructions, it looks like we should be able to put that right here. Loosen that up, lift it, and the 3.7 goes on. Let's loosen that a bit. Make sure it goes all the way down. There you go, clicked in, and then we'll get it nice and tight. So the preferred cam is on there. I'll run this, and I want to be able to use a certain machine or setting for an extended period of time. For me, that's at least 3 to 6 months. You know, within 3 to 6 months, I'll be able to have a good read on how the machine works on different clients, different skins, different projects, and then I'll also be able to see how it heals over time. I may sometimes use 2 machines side by side, my previous machine mixed with this one, and just to really see if it's at the same setting or as close as possible, how does each machine feel? It's sometimes very easy that when you get a new machine, you're kind of in this honeymoon phase. The new machine is super exciting. It's the best machine. It's the smoothest machine. It's the most consistent. Of course, it's a brand new motor and a brand new battery. But we try to want to be as objective as possible. And again, compare it to old machines that you've been using, but also just know these old machines that you've been using, you've probably put in, you know, several months or several years into them. So we've got that one in there. A couple things just to note on here. There is 2 batteries, and there's this external battery charger. They're USB-C, but you can also plug your machine directly if you have a battery in there into USB-C and charge it. This is also used to do software updates. And I think that's one of the things that's going to set this apart from a lot of other machines is you're going to have all these little software updates that fixes bugs, fixes errors, and you may perhaps even get new features. We'll talk about some of the features that are built into the machine that really made me want to spend the money to get this one versus some other machines that I was looking at. Outside of this, I don't know what this part is called, but this is the top part that the grip attaches to. I'm just going to twist it all the way on until I feel like it's going to stop. And does it just keep going? All right, looks like, oh, you don't even have to twist it, you just pop it on. Oh, it's magnetic. That's really cool. All right, so this is really neat. There's no screw, everything's magnetic. The bottom part, it looks like a screw. So this is the case that covers the machine and the battery components. That screws on to the magnetic, let's call this the middle part. And then there's the grip plus which you can screw on top. And the Grip Plus, or the grip in general, this is what's going to adjust the needle depth, or the needle hang, as some people would call it. And that needle hang, you goes from about 0 to 4.5. So you got 4.5 millimeters, and that's separate from the cam stroke. So some people think if you got a 3.5, 4.5, or a 5.0, that's the needle hang. That's very different, two separate things. So this allows you to adjust how much the needle hangs out, and then the cam itself, that's what's going to drive your cartridge out, 3.5 millimeters, 4.5, or 5.0. Let's see if we can just turn this machine on. Let's see if we should zoom in. There we go. Hopefully we can get this in focus. Okay, so it seems like I just have to hold the button. It says hello. And without even reading any manuals or anything, we just want to see how intuitive the computer is, the machine. There we go. Nate, do me a favor. Since I'm going to be looking down at this machine, can you come over in this side and keep an eye on the monitor if you feel like there's any glare and you can't see what's on the screen? Just let me know, and I'll make the adjustment. It's hard for me because I'm going to be looking at it like this.
Tilt it up a little bit. Away. Away.
No, it doesn't need to be straight.
Okay.
Right?
I was just going to say there was some glare at a spot.
Okay. Got it.
That's good.
This is okay? All right. So if we were to just hold it left and right, this adjusts the hertz and the volts. Hertz is the speed of the machine. So, back when I was using coils, a liner, you wanted it to have it somewhere around like 120 to 140 hertz. That just shows you how fast the machine is going. Shaders, you're probably around 80 to 90 hertz. Now, as we change the hertz, the left and the right, the minus and the plus, it's also going to change this small number, which is the volts here. And it goes all the way down from 3 volts or 36 hertz all the way up to 12 volts or 140 hertz. So, you may want to use this as a lining speed, not necessarily for all settings or all skin types, but this will give you the range of 3 to 12 volts or 36 to 140 hertz. So far with most of my machines, I'm running them between 8 to 9. So once I get used to this machine, I'll let you know what setting I'm going to be using. But also the thing here too is there is a torque setting. You're able to change the setting. Now, thinking about some of the other machines, I've used the Cheyenne Solnova Unlimited. With this machine here, it's got a mode. This one's not working right now. But when you turn the machine on and this light is steady, there's a steady mode. So imagine if we just call that at 0. And it's just going to push the needle in and out of the machine consistently with no give, no response. But if while the machine is on, the machine is not running, and you hold this button, all of a sudden this light on top will start to pulsate. That will mean that it's in responsive mode. So with the responsive mode, depending on what the machine is feeling, it may pull back a little bit. It's not going to be this direct push every single time. The cool thing is right now it's auto shutting down. And that just may be a battery saving feature. Let's hold it, turn it on. It's maybe like 2 or 3 seconds. But as I held on to it, it automatically changed the speed setting. So I don't know if I like that right off the bat. But you can change the torque setting on here, and it's similar to the responsive mode. It's similar to, the thing I can compare it to most right now is the Bishop wand. Bishop wand has the shader, the packer, and the liner. Each of those machines has different torque. So the shader is a much softer torque. Packer has a little bit more, perhaps some people may say it's a little bit more punchier, it's a little bit more stronger, and then the liner is definitely a stronger, harder hitting machine. It's got more torque to it. This machine here, you can change this, and it's either M+0, that's the default. We would consider the steady, it's a direct feedback from the machine. If you were to go M-1, and I think it goes down to -3, you're able to get it to have a softer hit. So that softer hit would be similar perhaps to a shader for a Bishop, if I was to think about it that way. And then you can also go up M+1 to +3. that will give you more of a packer or liner sort of feel. I want to know if I can change the auto standby setting. But also there's a built-in liner setting that, from what I've read, on the way out, when the needle is being pushed by the machine, it's faster, there's more punch, but then it's a slower retraction, allowing for the ink to deposit a little bit longer within the skin. I'm really interested to try that setting if I'm doing, thicker lines, 9-round liners, 9-round shaders and up, to see if it's a little bit more efficient that way. It is more power intensive, so it will drain a little bit more of the battery, but that's why I chose to go with the extended version. So I'll be able to have a longer battery life regardless of what setting that I'm using it on. My typical workday is around 7 to 10 hours of tattooing. This should give me that amount of time. So as the months goes by, I may do a 1 month, 2 month, 3 or 6 month review and just give you a real-time comparison with some of the other machines that I've been using. So far, left and right, we're able to adjust the hertz and the volts. Those two things seem to be simultaneously connected. If I press the down, oh, there we go. It's on. I don't know if we can hear it, or maybe here by my microphone. It's really silent. I mean, it's typical of any pen machine, or any wand machine, I believe. The screen got a little bit dimmer. It's assuming I'm not looking at it because I'm going to be tattooing. The screen turned off. And if I just tap the screen, it turned back on, and I press it down, and it pauses. Back on, back off. There's a session timer on here. So the session timer is telling me it's run for 30 seconds. Battery, it looks like there's maybe 3 or 4 bars worth of a meter on there. Right now we're about 50%. And that's nice to just have a quick visual on it. I didn't really have that on the Cheyenne. There was maybe just an orange light that turned on about 6 to 7 hours in. Turned red when you had maybe about an hour or so left. Let's see if we press, I guess, play. It says play and pause, or start. We can change it while the machine is running. And you can really hear it slow down a lot. And of course, higher speed, more power. You can feel a slight bit more vibration, but it feels consistent so far in the first minute that I've used it. We'll hit pause. I want to know what happens if I hold on to the pause button or play. Okay, so right now, when I held the down start button, it stopped already. The torque setting was blinking. So if I hold that down, now it's blinking. We can go -1, -2, -3. That's the bottom. Then we go back to 0, 1, 2, and then it goes to L. So that's the lining mode. Can I feel a difference with it? And again, I don't think I'd ever run it at 12. Let's get it down to about 9. And it goes up about 0.2 volts. I'm looking more so the volts than the hertz, but 9.0, 9.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, all the way up to 10. So it's in 0.2 increments. If I hit play or start, there's the sound of that. If I hold it while it's on, I can also change the torque. And you can hear there is a dampening of the power. Voltage is the same, hertz is the same, but now it just feels like it's having more power being delivered to the machine. So I really like this. I'm going to keep it at a 0 right now. Pause. Let's go to 9 volts. And so I know what happens if I hold minus. I know what happens if I hold plus. If I hold play or pause, it's always going to allow me to change the torque. Let's press up top, and that looks like the settings. You've got custom set, which says my custom set underneath. Looks like 3 different settings. You can choose, and I would assume you would be able to set 3 different presets. 90 hertz, which torque setting you want, another 90 hertz, which torque setting. So you can essentially have 3 different presets. So instead of having to manually change the voltage or the hertz, or to change the torque each time, if you have 3 different types of machine types that you like using, I think the easiest comparison is if you wanted to set something to be a -2, something really soft, lower volts, let's say 6 volts, -2 for some 3-round liner stippling. You could do that. If you wanted to turn it up and go to M0, which is the steady, and you wanted to go, 9 volts, and that would be your daily shading. You can pack black, you can shade with that. And then if you wanted to also set one more, and that would be like your lining mode, and it could be faster, it could be slower, depending on what you're doing. It's nice to be able to just press the top button, choose a setting, and it's loaded. Top button, the right button, number 3 is loaded. What happens if I press the setting button again? It just goes back, and that's about it. What if I hold the setting button? All right, so now we've got timer, presets, screen, shutdown, and info. Looks like you're going back or forward to select. So let's go into info. This is our model, the M2X or the extended version, hardware version, version 3, software version 3R. I believe there's a 4R currently out that was updated in October. So what I plan on doing is when I get home, I'm going to plug this into my computer with the USB-C directly to the machine and get the latest software update. Or you can scan this QR code right here. We're at the bottom of our menu. Let's go back. What happens if we hit shutdown? Shutdown time. I think 1 minute's too fast. There's a 5-minute option, 10, 15, 20, 30, and an hour. I think an hour is too long. Let's try to preserve some battery. 5 minutes I think is pretty decent. And again, if you're just kind of pausing it, maybe you're talking to a client, you want to get a different needle out, you want to pour some new ink, 5 minutes gives you a good amount of time. 10 minutes might be reasonable as well, but I think 5 minutes would be good. It seems like I just press right and that saves it. Yep, so the right button saves it. Let's go up to screen. And there's a brightness setting, timeout, dim screen, show volts, and show timer. Okay, so let's go to brightness. And the screen brightness, we're at 10. It goes all the way up to 16, pretty bright. I'm assuming it uses just a little bit more battery, not a lot, because it looked like the screen dimmed when I was tattooing. And we can go all the way down to 0, which doesn't turn it off completely, but it's still pretty, it's still pretty dark. Let's keep it at 10. I think that's a nice default. We'll save it, press right. We'll go to timeout. Oh, this is a screen timeout. Okay, so screen timeout, 20 seconds, 1 minute, 2, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. You can have the screen always on. Okay, so that's a good setting also. So let's think about that. All right, I think 5 minutes is good. If I was to go back and change the shutdown time, let's just move it to 10 minutes. Okay, go back to screen, dim the screen. I just turned that setting off, so it's a little checkbox that is either filled in or not. So right now I just turned the dim screen off. Let's keep it on. I like that setting. Show volts. If I turn it off, would it only show hertz? Let's take a look at what that looks like. Show timer. I don't need the timer. I tattoo at a day rate. So for me, let's keep it as minimal as possible. And let's go back to our screen. And right now it just shows the hertz and the watts. There's no volts. There's no session timer. I think in the beginning, I'm going to put the volts back on. I'm going to get used to knowing which volts is associated with which hertz. You actually honestly don't even need it. You could just probably leave it off and then just go based on feel. But just so that I have a point of reference, if I was to compare this at 9 volts to another machine at 9 volts, it's good to have a consistent metric. So let's hold that setting button, go to screen, let's show the volts, go back. Let's change our presets. And it looks like we can do a custom set. There's a soft realism, black and gray, color work, bold line work, black work, and fine line. Let's see if we can see what each setting says. ACUS recommends for fine line 4.1 heavy, 108 hertz, M1. On this side, 116 hertz, M1, and 98 hertz, M1. So there's 3 different settings. They want you to use a 4.1 heavy. You can save that, or you can go to black work. They recommend a 4.5 super heavy. Bold line work, 4.5 super heavy. Color work, 4.1 heavy. Black and gray, 3.7 standard. Soft realism, 3.7 standard. Seems like I don't fit into any of these categories because I chose a super heavy 3.7. And again, that's I think the beautiful thing about it is you can have a preset or you can custom set it. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so if I was just to kind of choose which one I wanted to set up. Preset, custom set. Okay, so that allows me to go back. Okay, so that's currently the current setup that I have. I think to do that, based on this setting right here, we'll press setting. We'll go to number 1. And number 1, we can say, let's go. Oh, it looks like 7.1. Yeah, I really don't need anything below 7.1. So let's go 7.1. And let's see what this is like at the softest setting, M3 at 7.1. I'll save that. How do I save that? Okay, so my custom set, if I hold it, nope, that's not it. Nope. So if I just press on it, press it again. Okay, so that's M1 loaded. What if I hold that? Oh, so I think that saves it. Okay, so let's try one more time. 7.1 M-3. Let's go to custom set, and if I hold the right side, that saves it right there. Okay, so we're at 84 hertz, M-3. That puts us at about 7 volts, so I'm going to try to remember that setting. The next one I'll save. Let's see what I would practically use. Let's go to M0. Let's change the voltage to 8.5, 100 hertz. Let's save that to the middle. So if I hold on to that, now it's saved. And the last one, I'm really interested to try the liner setting. And I would like the liner setting at the same speed, 100 hertz, 8.5 volts. Let's save that to the third one. All right, so that's my custom set. 84 hertz, 100 hertz, 100 hertz. But the difference with the last one is it's a liner mode. And I think that's about it. That's the basis of the machine. It seems very intuitive to use. I like it. The complaint that I have so far is that when this machine turns off and I have to hold the button to turn it on, it automatically changes the settings right away. There's no like pause or wait for it. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, and I'll show you guys about that later. I feel like when the machine is off and you're holding a button to turn it on, because you can't just press it once and turn it on, you have to hold it. It should give you a moment to recognize that it's done loading. Perhaps your finger's still on the button. It shouldn't change the setting right away. I don't want to have to like always turn it on and then have to reset my setting, even though there's a preset. So that's something that I'm gonna give some feedback on. Hopefully they change that. Or maybe it's something that I'm just not aware of yet. But let's talk about form factor a little bit, and I'm gonna compare the two. I'll zoom out. And I wanna compare it to the Cheyenne Soul Nova Unlimited. This is the first one. And one of the things I saw, and I thought this was, it was kind of cool. I don't know the full story behind it, but it looks like the guys who created ACUS, they worked at Cheyenne. They made the Soul Nova Unlimited, maybe the Cheyenne Soul Nova or the Hawk Pen, I'm not too sure. I've seen some pictures of like an evolution of it. But I really love the form factor of this machine. I love how sleek it is. Cheyenne was the first one to introduce cartridges. And when they came out with the Cheyenne pen, it was groundbreaking. Like, it was just, the form factor was just so easy to use. And then when they eventually progressed and made it wireless with the battery, just how clean the aesthetic is. You've got this one simple button. If you were to turn this on, the machine is on. There's no screen, very simple. If you were to change the voltage, it was almost very intuitive. So you would be able to like hold the button while the machine was on. And if you turned it from, let's say the machine is pointing to 6 o'clock, as you held the button and you turned it to 9 o'clock, all the way up to 12 o'clock, it would change the voltage of the machine. I don't know exactly what the voltage was, if it was maybe 6 volts and it went all the way up to 12. I generally always ran my machine what I called about 10 o'clock, 10:30. And that would give me maybe about 9 volts. I would sometimes go a little bit lower, 9:30, you know, when it comes to time, the way that I'm looking at it. And it was just a really easy way to read the machine. The lights would turn off. The light would change into orange. If it was getting low, it would turn into red when it was about to run out. I love that the battery cap is on top. So I typically have a machine bag. I can take my gloves off, slide the bag down with one hand, with a clean hand, twist the cap off, pop the battery out, get a new battery, pop the battery in, twist the cap back on, and then the machine bag can slide back up, and it was just so easy. You know, you would just wrap this up. And this one's also a stainless steel grip. So the one that comes with it, I believe, is also aluminum. I do prefer the heavier grip on the front. It just allows the weight to lean a little bit more forward, feels more natural. But this to me is such a well-designed machine. For me, it typically lasted about a full day session. I rarely had to change the battery too often. I try to time my days pretty efficiently, but if I did, it was pretty easy to switch it out. It would always be towards the end of the day. Never really needed to use 2 batteries to full empty. This machine here has the same aesthetic. I love that it's pretty sleek. You don't, again, have these weird buttons or batteries or any protrusions coming out. It's really well designed. I do love, I'm sure they have a bigger grip. I didn't change beyond that. But just the fact that you have this Grip Plus, there's the standard Grip 2, which makes it just about as sleek as the Cheyenne Soul Nova Unlimited. It's a little bit longer with the extended battery. But even this, without the big grip, without the heavier weight, it still feels balanced. It's the same sort of balance that I feel with this machine. The stainless steel grip tips it forward a little bit more. But again, I do prefer something a little bit bigger. I don't need to add all that grip tape around it, but if it's built in already, or if that's the way the grip is, I'm all for it. I would just now like to get the heavier grip. Now, the weight difference, I think it's about 190 grams for just the stainless or the steel grip, the heavier grip, versus 140 grams on this one here. So it would be significantly heavier, but it just, I feel like it would feel better, especially if you're just allowing the machine to move. if you're pulling heavier lines, allowing that weight of the machine to kind of drag down into it. I've tattooed with coils for a while, so the difference is even though it's heavier, coils were back heavier, so you felt a little bit more strain on the wrists and the fingers to kind of support the weight of the machine on the back, versus here now it's forward tilting. So it feels like the machine and the needle is always leaning into the skin. What I don't like about this so far is that the battery is on the inside. So if the battery happens to run out towards the end of my session, I would have to make sure that to avoid as much cross-contamination as possible, get some new gloves, twist this part out, and the machine is still intact. It's just this back cover comes out, and I can pop this out, put a new one in, screw this back on, and I would have to find a way to get the machine bag back up. I'll get used to it and share that more, maybe like a 2-week or 1-month update. That's my only complaint, rather than doing this. But I understand the compromise or the design change because you have this really cool computer built into this. Yes, there's some computer parts in here, but now there's a computer with the screen, with presets, with software updates. Okay, so here's what I was talking about earlier, before I change. So I understand why they had to change the setup, but no matter where I press, does it tell me where it's up and down? Okay, so I don't know which way is up and down. It doesn't have like a marking on here. So I have to guess, all right, this is up and down. I can press anywhere on the screen and you would see just a loading. You would see it loading, and I would have to hold this button, but now I think what the workaround is, you would see that loading screen, I would have to hold it for a certain amount of seconds for it to turn on. Maybe instead of on the sides, either top or the bottom. So what happens if I hold down on the start button? Okay, so that's the safest thing. I say I'm gonna get used to holding it on the bottom, but you kind of have to figure it out in the beginning. Like, where is the bottom of this? There's no single marker. Here you can just clearly tell there's a physical button on the Cheyenne. Here there is no marking. Not a big deal. I don't think it would even make sense just because this part twists and it's not attached to the screen. So it might be a little bit hard to tell. Not the biggest downside, but I would just have to find and make sure that I'm always not on the plus or the minus. Yeah, so what else is there? All right, so let's go through a couple different machines and I'll talk about how this compares with some others. I haven't used a full array of different machines that are out there, so I might not be able to answer all of your questions. I also have the Cheyenne Solnova 1. This is the Unlimited 4.0 stroke. Just today, it just so happens that as I was twisting off the grip, the cover came off so I can take a look at the cam. This is the first time that I've ever had a chance to take a look at it. And comparing this cam to some of the other cams that we have here. I mean, this may be brass also on the Cheyenne, but just the size of this, the thickness of it, it's so much bigger and heavier. Even if you looked at the stainless steel heavy, it's much bigger. Just the mass of it. And then if you looked at the standard, yeah, this is like featherweight. This is really light. So it's almost like this is somewhere in between the standard stainless steel and the heavy stainless steel. This, as far as size and perhaps weight, would be somewhere in between. I don't know the difference in the motor though. All I know is that with the Cheyenne Solnova Unlimited, you have the option to have the responsive mode or steady. And yeah, this is the inside where the button would be pressed on the outside here. But we'll put this aside for now. I've been primarily using a 3.5 with the Solnova Unlimited, and I've used this for about 5 years before the motor finally started to give out. It was really consistent, no fluctuations. It ran consistently as a daily driver, 3 to 4 days a week of tattooing. Not every week, but it would just be pretty consistent for me. Prior to that, I was using a custom Bishop wand. So back, 2020 and before, I was sponsored by Bishop. I got to prototype the different versions of the wand, and this one looks like the liner, and we can kind of tell that because of the black casing on the outside. The gold or brass on the outside is for the packer, and then I think the silver, or maybe it's blue, is for the shader. Prior to this, and I'll talk about why that's important for this one. Prior to this machine, I used the Bishop Fantom for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then prior to that, I used the Bishop V6. Bishop V6 was my introduction to rotaries, about 2014, end of 2014. Really loved the consistency, the power of the machine. When the Fantom came out, I really loved how compact and lightweight it was. I didn't feel like the motor was too strong, but I was okay with that bit of compromise. And when they were prototyping the different machines, they talked about the different motors that were on the inside. And while I'm a black and gray artist and I do a lot of soft shading, the machine felt very similar to a Fantom. And the shader was configured to be a 3.5 stroke. The Fantom, you could change the stroke for it, but the shader for the wand was 3.5 stroke. The liner was a stronger motor at 4.0 stroke. Sorry, packer, stronger motor, 4.0 stroke. And then the liner was an even stronger motor at a 5.0 stroke. They all had different color casings, different motors, different strokes. You couldn't change any of them. So I asked them, hey, can you guys make an exception for me, make a custom one? I would like a 3.5 stroke with the packer motor, the mid-size motor, but I really like this black aesthetic. And they were able to make that, so that's exactly what this machine is. I've used it a little bit. It still works really well. Haven't had any issues with this one yet. But then I switched over because at the time they didn't have a built-in battery yet. I was still using, I believe it was Hard Knocks Rotary, had a battery to it. I think Critical started coming out with some. Other than that, you had to use an RCA cord. I really love the aesthetic of the Cheyenne Solnova Unlimited. So I ended up getting this one, and I used it as a daily driver for about 5 years. So that was why I transitioned out of it. But that was the difference of me testing out some of these machines. And using this for about 5 years, it finally went out. I wanted to buy something that was pretty reliable. So I worked with Dennis Savak over at Love Machine, and he was using the ink machine Dragonfly. And I asked him, what he thought about it, how long he's had it. And I believe he's had it since like 2007. Hasn't had any issues, sent it in, and maybe had it tuned up, but it would still work just about the same. A couple things that I really loved about this machine was that you could use a needle bar or a cartridge. This is actually, I don't know if they still make this, but Bishop Rotary made the Arma adjustable aluminum cartridge grip. So this stays locked into place. It's adjustable, so this will adjust the needle hang. But the beautiful thing about this machine is that you could adjust the give to this machine. So in the back, you'd be able to twist this knob here, and it would make it how soft this machine would hit. So it would back off depending on how it hit the skin. So much so that it felt like it had a spring and an armature bar like a coil. The difference is, of course, the form factor. So you can plug a giant battery on the back, you can plug an RCA cord, you can plug a clip cord. But for me to hear from someone else that they've had a machine for over 10 years, haven't had any issues, I ended up buying 4 of these because I do still enjoy using needle bars, especially on rotaries. It's much more direct. I feel like I can tattoo a little bit faster, but the setup takes a little bit longer. If you have a bad disposable tube, you got to spend a little bit more time, a little bit more frustration. But I like to keep things as minimal as possible. So after using this machine for quite some time and using a power supply, I thought it was time to, again, I wanted to look in the market for a machine that had a battery, something that was wireless again. And it was maybe about 2 weeks ago that I finally placed an order for this machine that came out about 3 weeks ago. So I'm super excited that this is the second version, it's the second iteration. I had my eye on the company for a little bit. I'm excited to see it in action, to use it, to put it to the test, the batteries, the motors, the torques, all the different settings, and then get back to you guys on what I think about the machine. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And yeah, Nate, you have any questions?
You answered them all.
I answered them all? What were some of the questions you did have?
Right. What about this machine that made you really excited to try it?
So I love things that are like technologically advanced. I think the fact that, and there are some other machines out there that have a computer or a screen built into it. I don't think it's necessarily the screen, but having the presets, being able to virtually change the torque on the machine, I think that's really nice. The extended battery. And also I was really confident and satisfied in the build quality of the Cheyenne. You know, maybe it's a German engineered thing, but the fact that they came, or some engineers came out and made their own machines, it seemed like an evolution in a different direction. Perhaps they wanted to try something that they couldn't before. I was really excited to just kind of see this be the side evolution, not the Solnova Unlimited 2, but if you were to just kind of morph this into a different direction, it felt technologically more advanced. And if I was to compare the Solnova Unlimited 2 to this one, I don't like the form factor of the Unlimited 2. It's just the way that that screen sticks out, and it's a little bit more knobby versus, again, this is a little bit more sleek. So those are some of the things that, you know, made me look at it. And then I was watching, you know, Ben Ochoa's video about this, the fact that you can take apart the full housing, it comes off in 3 parts, and you can really clean it, autoclave it all the way through. It's nice to be able to have that kind of attention to detail. Plus that little magnetic part was pretty cool too.
Yeah. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
What, after like playing around with it a little bit, what are you most excited to try?
What am I most excited to try after playing around with it for a little bit? I think having the 3 different presets is going to be really cool. Most of the time, yeah, it's a 3-in-1 machine. So again, if you wanted to set this to be, and I'm not knocking on Bishop or anything, but if you were just combine all 3 machines, you can set one to be a shader, you can set one to be a packer, you can set one to be a liner, and you don't have to like physically twist off a motor or purchase multiple machines. So again, it just feels very intuitive to have that built into there. And again, I use this with a little bit of research online. I didn't watch anyone else's tutorial how to use it. I didn't read it in the manuals. I wanted to see how intuitive it was, and it felt very good and easy to use. You guys heard a couple of my gripes as far as like where the battery's situated and, you know, the long press on the left and the right side. But we worked through all those things, and I feel like it's really good.
Does it charge wirelessly also? No, do you have to plug it? Can you charge it from outside too?
So it doesn't charge wirelessly. That'd be nice if you could just plug it into a dock.
I didn't mean wirelessly, but you can plug it in to charge it without having to take a battery.
Yeah, if you could dock charge this wirelessly, that'd be awesome. If we were to talk about, if you wanted to just charge the battery in the machine, you could plug a USB cord right here, and it would only charge 1 battery at a time. Okay. So if you typically don't use this whole battery all day, that may be the way to go, but it still feels a little bit clumsy. You're also exposing the battery and everything out there. So I would rather just take it out, keep this back on, just keep the machine closed in case, you know, you drop something, some fluids or anything, and then use this this wireless, it's not wireless charger, use this battery charger. And it's USB-C. So yeah, USB-C to C. This got a USB-C to, I don't know what you call these old things anymore. A, USB-C to A. But you could just go USB-C to C. You know, we use these power blocks all the time. You know, when we travel, I don't know, does this case close? And here's my other thing too. I wasn't a fan of the Cheyenne's case. So if I was to think about how does this store, I hope this fits in here. If it doesn't, I might be a little like, it's a design flaw. Please? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it can close. Okay, this will work. This will work. And you would travel with this. I do have a more sleeker case that I might try to figure out, like, how do I get this to be as efficient as possible? What's that?
You like a gun case with like the foam inside?
As small as possible. But really, this is what I would need to pack, right? So rather than having this giant bulky case, Zoom out a bit. Rather than having this, it's not even giant. I think this is a nice, well-designed case. If I can have something to just pack this, you know, without it constantly banging each other, I think this would be a good sort of case. So I'm gonna find that and I'll send it over to you guys. I don't need to travel with the cams. I don't need to travel with any lubricant or anything. I hope I never have to use the silicone grease, but if I do, then cool, no worries. Yeah, LCD universal charger. Any other questions? What you got?
No.
Okay.
Seems pretty compact.
Yeah, I'm excited to not have to use a cord again. I didn't mind it, but you know, you spend 5 years not using a cord, you go back to it, that's okay. The Dragonfly? Yeah, that'd be an upgrade to that. This is a new one, yeah. So starting tomorrow, super excited. I'm gonna charge overnight. I'm also excited to see how long does it take to charge. So I don't know, like.
If it runs a long battery life, usually that's about how long it takes to charge.
No, sometimes they charge faster. You know, or sometimes like you charge for 30 minutes and it gets you to 50%. So I want to be able to like test it and see like a fast charge, yeah. So this case is nice for just general storage. It looks like it's got 6 different slots for the cams in addition to the one that's built in here. So essentially you can hold 6 or 7 different cams. I might want to try all of these. But here's the 4.0. What does that look like? Okay, 4.0, 4.5. 4.0, 4.5, and then you've also got the 3.7. And yeah, it feels like you can have, like, the fact that you can just buy one machine, one motor, change the torque, it feels like multiple machines in one. You can change the cam on your own. That also feels like multiple machines at once. The Cheyennes, you can't change it. If it's 3.5, if it's 4.0, that's what it is. You can't change it. So, I mean, you're an apprentice, so you know, we're gonna tell you, all right, use a 3.5 for shading, but if you wanna like really push heavier lines, get a 5.0. You have to spend $1,000 or so on a machine. And I think that's the one thing I didn't touch on was pricing too. This is top tier when it comes to pricing. And top tier is it's one of the most expensive machines out there. This shipped from Germany. I don't know if there's a US supplier that ships it out, but the M2 extended is 1,100 euros, which brings us to about 1281 US dollars. There's the M2 that's not extended, and it's only 50 euros cheaper, or 1223. The alternative to that, and I think I told you about this, they have an ACUS C2. So I don't know which exactly motor it comes from, but it's like a Bishop wand that you can just plug an RCA in, and it's about 1/3 of the price. So if you're really inclined to want to try this machine, you don't want to spend $1,200 or $1,300 on it, get the ACUS C2. If you're okay with having a cord, you can change all the cams in there. You can't change the torque settings, but at least you can plug it in and change it through a power supply, maybe your voltage or something like that.
That's almost too much variability for me. I feel like sometimes you kind of get like overwhelmed with how much stuff you can change.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Like especially when I'm drawing, like I only use like 2 or 3 tools. Like I don't need, you know, a dozen different types of combinations.
And that's the thing with, you know, when I was tattooing with coil machines. Yeah. When I was tattooing with coil machines, you had to like pick a specific machine, and there was all these variables about the hertz, the speed of the machine, the way that the coils were wrapped, the weight of the machine, the weight of the armature bar, the weight of the springs, the front and the back spring, how much angle that it had to give you a certain power, the gap that it had. So there's all these different things, and if you gave it to a tattoo artist, they would describe it in a way that was like, yeah, it's very strong and it's punchy, or it's great for lines. But another person would say, no, I don't line with that. I would only shade with it. And what they would use to line, another person wouldn't use it for that feature. So tattooing was it felt a little bit more complex and mystical because everyone had their preference for something. When rotaries came out, this is the motor. This is the speed that you can change it with. Maybe you could change the cam. Everyone was on a even playing field, and you just made it work. And I think that's the great thing is now when we're like teaching or talking about tattooing or tools,
That in my hand, you know what tactile experience I have.
The vocabulary is almost about the same. The variables are so much smaller. This one, you can ask somebody which torque setting you're on, M-3, M2, M0.
It's the same for every other M-3.
Right, exactly. But it's not like over time or during a session, your spring would like start to wear or snap. Like it was pretty much gonna stay consistent throughout a couple years within your career. So that's my biggest hope with this machine, is that I don't want to have to send this in all the way to Germany to get it repaired within a year, 2 years, hopefully never. I'm hoping to get at least 5 years out of this, because I got 5 years out of the Cheyenne. And you know, let's see how long this works. So, yeah, anything else? B, did you have any thoughts or questions on it? I know you were looking at it too, and you ended up getting the Cheyenne Sol Nova Unlimited again. You got a 4.0? Yeah. What was your reservation for not picking up this machine? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know you didn't build tattoo. No, sorry. But yeah, that's just one of those things of like, everyone's got a different reason. Everyone, the way that they use it, their variables are going to be different. So yeah, any questions that you have, drop them off in the comments. I'll answer them as best as I can. I'll make some follow-up videos. And yeah, thanks for watching.